The city was alive that evening, glowing windows, impatient horns, and the dull roar of footsteps that never seemed to end. People rushed through the crosswalks with phones in their hands and urgency in their eyes as if time itself was chasing them, and among all that restless motion stood an old man. He wasn't begging, he wasn't shouting. He was simply lost. His coat, though elegant, looked oddly misplaced against the wet pavement. The collar was neatly folded, the buttons fastened, but dust and time had dulled its color. He held a small leather briefcase close to his chest, as if it contained something precious, maybe documents, maybe memories. His silver hair fluttered in the wind, and his blue eyes darted across the streets, searching for a name he couldn't quite remember. "Excuse me," he tried to stop a woman passing by. "Could you tell me how to get to Elmwood Street?" She barely slowed her pace. "I'm late, sir. Try asking someone else." He nodded faintly, trying not to show disappointment. The next few people didn't even answer. A teenager with headphones, a delivery man on his bike, a businessman glued to his phone. The city didn't even notice him. Minutes turned into an hour. His legs grew heavy. The cold began to creep through his coat. He leaned against a lamppost, trying to recall how he ended up here in the first place. He remembered being in a car. Yes, a black sedan. And his driver stepping out for something. Then, nothing but noise and confusion. Now he was just another forgotten soul in a world that moved too fast. As the sky deepened into gray, he shuffled toward a small bench near a bakery. The air there smelled faintly of bread and cinnamon, warm human smells that softened the edges of the night. He sat down slowly, setting his briefcase beside him. People came and went through the bakery door, carrying coffee cups and laughter, but no one looked his way. He opened the briefcase slightly and smiled at the photo inside, a young woman holding a child, both smiling under the summer sun. His hand trembled as he touched the picture. "You would have told me to call for help, Margaret," he whispered softly, "but I don't even remember my phone number anymore." The old man sighed. For a moment he closed his eyes, listening to the rhythm of footsteps, to the world that had forgotten to look back. There was a loneliness in him, not just the kind that comes from being alone, but the kind that grows when you realize how invisible you've become. The streetlight flickered above him. A group of teenagers walked past, laughing loudly. One of them glanced at him, then looked away quickly, uncomfortable. The old man smiled sadly. He had been their age once, strong, certain, always in a hurry. Now he was a stranger in his own city. A drizzle began to fall, soft and cold. He lifted his hand and let the raindrops gather in his palm. "At least the rain still remembers," he murmured, "to stop for a while." Just then, a faint warmth escaped from the bakery door as someone opened it. The smell of sugar, the sound of gentle humming. The old man turned slightly, drawn to the light spilling out onto the wet pavement. And though he didn't know it yet, inside that small bakery was someone who would stop for him. Someone who would change everything. Inside the small bakery, Lena wiped flour from her hands and arranged freshly baked buns on a tray. The evening rush had quieted, leaving a soft glow from the warm lights overhead. Her mother, the bakery's cleaning lady, had gone home hours ago, leaving Lena to finish the last orders. Through the window, her eyes caught a figure sitting on the bench outside. At first, she thought he was another homeless person, someone the city would ignore as usual. But there was something different about him. The way he sat, his careful posture, the gentle way he held that leather briefcase. Something about his presence made her pause. Lena set down the tray and walked to the door. The bell jingled softly as she stepped outside. The cold air brushed her face, carrying the faint scent of rain and warm bread. "Sir, are you all right?" she asked gently. "You've been sitting here for a while." The old man looked up, startled. His blue eyes, tired and cautious, met hers. For the first time in hours, someone had spoken to him without judgment or hurry. I think I'm lost," he admitted. His voice trembled slightly, betraying the exhaustion of a long day. "I was looking for Elmwood Street. My driver, he didn't come back." Lena smiled softly, kneeling slightly to meet his gaze. "It's okay. It's not far. I can help you get there." He hesitated, unsure if he should accept help from a stranger, but there was something in her eyes. Something genuine, kind, and unafraid that made him nod. As she helped him to his feet, her small hand supporting his arm, she noticed the weariness in his steps. His shoes were polished but scuffed, his coat fine but heavy. He carried himself with dignity, though his confusion and fatigue made him appear fragile. They walked slowly down the wet street, the city's lights reflecting on the puddles at their feet. Lena asked him questions in the gentle way she always did, the way she had learned from her mother, who taught her to listen first and judge later. "Do you live around here?" she asked. "Not anymore. I haven't been here in a long time," he replied, his voice soft, almost wistful. "And do you have family?" she asked carefully. He opened the briefcase just a little, showing a photograph. A young woman holding a child, both smiling in the sunlight. "My daughter Margaret. She taught me to be patient, to be kind," he said. "But now I can barely remember. I've grown so forgetful." Lena felt a pang in her heart. Here was a man, well-dressed, clearly once important, and yet completely invisible to the world. She realized that sometimes it wasn't wealth or status that made someone valuable. It was the human connections they still held on to. After a few more blocks, they reached a large iron gate. Two guards suddenly appeared, rushing toward them, bowing low. "Sir, we've been looking everywhere for you," one exclaimed. The old man stopped and smiled faintly at Lena. "Seems I've caused a little commotion," he said, his voice warm and calm. Lena stepped back surprised, watching as the guards opened the gate and ushered him in. She didn't understand yet, but she knew she had done something important. She had seen him when no one else had. She had cared when everyone else had ignored him. As she turned to walk back to the bakery, she noticed a small smile on his face, one she would remember for a long time. For the first time that evening, he wasn't alone, and Lena, the maid's daughter, had unknowingly become the bridge between a forgotten old man and a world that had stopped noticing him. The next morning, Lena returned to the bakery as usual. The smell of fresh bread filled the air, comforting and familiar. Her mother was sweeping the floor, humming softly, while Lena arranged the trays for the day's customers. Everything seemed ordinary. The city outside continued to rush by, indifferent and busy. Then a sleek black car rolled to a stop in front of the bakery. Its polished surface reflected the morning sun, and a driver in a crisp uniform stepped out. Lena barely noticed at first until a tall man in a tailored suit followed, flanked by two assistants carrying folders and phones. Lena froze. Something about the man felt familiar. Then she remembered. It was the old man from last night, the one she had helped find his way. But now he looked completely different. His silver hair was neatly combed, his coat perfectly fitted, and his eyes shone with a quiet authority. He approached Lena with a gentle smile, one hand extended. "Good morning," he said warmly. "I owe you my thanks, more than I can express." Lena blinked, unsure how to respond. Her heart raced. I just helped you get home, sir. That's all." "No," he replied softly, shaking his head. "You saw me when no one else did. You treated me like a person, not a shadow in the street. That kindness, it deserves more than a simple thank you." From his suit pocket, he pulled out a thick envelope and handed it to her. Inside was a scholarship letter, beautifully printed, along with a personal note written in careful handwriting. "Kindness is the only true wealth. You reminded me of that. May this help you achieve your dreams." Lena's hands trembled as she read the words. Her eyes filled with tears. The scholarship was from a foundation she had never heard of, the Weston Trust, known for funding the brightest and most deserving students. He smiled, noticing her emotion. "I am Edward Weston," he said, "founder of the Weston Trust. I am the man you helped last night. And now, thanks to you, I can return that kindness in the only way I know how." Lena's mother appeared behind her, mouth open in disbelief. Her daughter, the maid's child, had unknowingly helped one of the most influential men in the country. Not for money, not for attention, but because she had a heart that cared. Edward Weston turned to leave. signaling to his assistants. The black car's engine purred as he stepped in. Before driving away, he looked back at Lena. Remember, true wealth is not in what we have, but in what we give. You have a very rich heart, Lena. The car disappeared into the city, leaving a trail of stunned onlookers. Lena stood in the doorway, clutching the scholarship, feeling the weight of the moment. Her small act of compassion had changed her life, and reminded everyone watching that sometimes it takes just one person to see another for the world to shift. That evening, Lena looked up at the stars, whispering softly, "Maybe life notices us when we notice others first." And in that moment, she understood kindness always comes back in ways we never imagine.